Hi, I'm Nicole Dungca. I'm an investigative reporter at the Washington Post, and my friends at 826 National have asked me to make a video for their Write Your Way Forward series. I have always loved to read. I was always the kid who was just stealing off with a book and always at the library trying to do those reading challenges. And because of that, I also really loved to write. When I was younger, I wanted to write fiction, but as I grew a little bit older, I realized that there were other ways to write. And so I started thinking about journalism because every day I read the San Francisco Chronicle. I grew up in the Bay Area, and I would read the newspaper and I would listen to the news, and it seemed like such an interesting thing to do. So when I was in high school, I actually did an internship at a Filipino American magazine called Filipinas Magazine. I was only 15, but I was able to write about prominent Filipino Americans, and that's where I really got the journalism bug. I also studied it in high school. I was part of the journalism class there where we put out a newspaper. And it was so fun to be able to ask people questions and then to write a story out of that. It was so exciting to know that there was a way to channel all my reading and writing into an actual profession. Like I said, I really loved writing, but once I started focusing on specific institutions like Portland Public Schools, I was able to get tips about stories, about things that people thought that should be changed or things that should be different within the school districts. And sometimes when we wrote those stories, the school district would change things. And I think that was really the first time that I saw the power of investigative journalism. I also really like the idea that I can really focus on something for a long time and become an expert in it. I'm basically learning the ins and outs of a subject so that whenever anybody asks me about it, I already know. I'm able to explain it from top to bottom so that people can really see that we've done our homework, that we've really put in the work for the journalism that we put out. I think some people don't know, how much work journalists really put into being incredibly truthful and making sure that we get everything right. Everything I put in the newspaper has been vetted by several people, including an editor and the editor above them. And so everything you read in the news has been put forth by the journalists really as the truth. We're trying to really get facts correct and make sure that everybody has the right information at their fingertips so that they can make decisions about their daily lives. Investigative journalism involves going really deep into a subject, usually something about wrongdoing or other issues that really need to be brought into the spotlight that other people haven't really talked about before because there hadn't been enough news coverage on it previously. So I'm really lucky in the sense that I get to get a pretty long amount of time, sometimes weeks or months or even a year or so to develop a project so that we're able to really become experts in one subject, whether we're looking into police accountability or, things like racism in Boston, which are all things that I was able to do investigative projects on. There's basically something in every subject that you can investigate. And one of the things I like about investigative journalism a lot is that sometimes you can make change. You can help people realize something is wrong, or people have been hurt by specific policies, and people will be persuaded to pass government policies, pass laws so that they can change things. And I think that's a really powerful thing that I get from my profession. I'm really glad I get to be a journalist because I think a free press is such an important function of democracy. Um, in order to make sure that everybody has the freedoms that were afforded in the United States, a free press should be there to be able to, show the problems with government, with other institutions, so that other people can see it and decide whether they want to make any changes. Whenever I even talk to younger journalists who are just starting out, I tell them to read. Keep reading. It really helps your writing and it helps you present stories and think of questions to ask. And you really need to keep that sense of curiosity. I think that's one of the things that all journalists have in common. They're always curious about the world and they want to know more about why something is like that or why, another issue isn't another way. Every single story starts from a question. Why is this policy like that? Why is this person hurt? What happened here? And so being curious and asking questions is just a natural part of the job. So if you've ever been asked, why do you keep asking that? You might be a really good journalist. If you keep asking why, this might be a perfect profession for you. But it's really a great way to get to know people in your community and to get to know the community as well. So I'd always say read, ask a lot of questions, um, and just be open to topics around you that you're really interested in. I think the best journalists I know are really passionate about the topics that they cover because these are things that they want to know about and they want to help affect change in some ways. If your school has some sort of newspaper or online outlet, join it. Just see if you like it. If you don't have one, maybe you can start one. Maybe you can find an advisor who really likes journalism that can teach you a little bit more about it. I know a lot of journalists who had their own little newsletters that they made when they were in second grade or third grade. And so that's always an exciting thing to do. And also, you can publish things on the internet. Ask your parents if there are ways for you to get in touch with local newspapers or other outlets to do an opinion piece. Sometimes if there's something that you're really passionate about, even when you're young, you can write an article, get some help from your parents or from your advisors, and sometimes they get published. And even if they don't, that's a lot of practice where you get to learn how to basically put out an argument, how to lay out an article, and those are all really important things when it comes down to actually going into journalism. If you want to be a journalist, you don't necessarily have to study journalism. You should study what you're passionate about and follow that through. I know a lot of journalists who didn't have a journalism degree or didn't study it in high school, but they read a lot and they really kept reading and writing about topics that they were passionate about and later became journalists. So it's not something that you have to do throughout your entire life. I mean, I started when I was young, um, but you can always come back to it, and there are always ways that you can get that experience elsewhere. But it's really fun, and so if you ever want to try it, if you ever read an article or see anything on TV that you really like, try and reach out to the person who created it. Try to get into their head and ask them about how they thought about it, because a lot of times those people do want to talk to young people about what they do for a living. Thank you so much for watching. For more writing prompts and other resources, go to 826digital.com.